What's up guys, my name is Ace, and after the Black Ops 7 reveal, the general reception and response in the community seems to be overwhelmingly negative. There are some positives in there are some people that are looking forward to this, they're liking what they're seeing, but generally speaking, when looking at comments on YouTube videos or Reddit posts or Twitter discussions when it comes to the game, it's been pretty overwhelmingly negative. Also, as far as we can tell, using plugins that give us an indication of what the dislikes of a video might be, it looks like the trailer is getting dislike bombed quite hard, and we have a new Battlefield game coming out this year. So with this game, it looks like it's shaping up to be Infinite Warfare all over again. And what I mean by that is not necessarily with the gameplay design or anything, but more so with the community reception to this. Not only does it appear that a lot of people have already made their mind up about this game, despite the fact that they haven't tried it yet and they've just seen the trailers for it, just like what we saw with Infinite Warfare, but on top of that, like I said, there's a Battlefield game coming out this year, and the COD versus Battlefield tribalism is alive and well once again, with so many of the comments on any Black Ops 7 video just being about Battlefield 6. And today I wanted to dive a little bit more into this topic because the first video where I covered this, I was mainly just going through the things that we had learned about Black Ops 7, specifically as they related to multiplayer, and I was sharing my opinions on each of those points as we went through, but I didn't really touch on the big picture a whole lot and my general thoughts and impressions coming into this Call of Duty game, and that's more so what I wanted to focus on, while also focusing on this general community sentiment and what that could mean for the franchise going forward. Now, as I was saying in that video a couple days ago, the individual points that we were learning about multiplayer, the things that they were sharing with us, many of them genuinely do sound really good. It seems like they're making a lot of good individual gameplay design decisions. We're looking at things more on a micro level here. And I am going to be going through this list. I will be speaking positively about stuff for this next little section, so I feel like I need a little trigger warning here for a lot of people. But there is a lot more to the video. It's not all just going to be praise and stuff. There are a lot of much deeper issues, and that's going to be the main focus of this video. But let's get into this list of features that they talked about that I'm really liking personally. And in many cases, these are things that the community's been begging for years now. First off, with all the little clips that we're seeing here, I personally really like the general setting and vibe of this game. I'm a huge fan of Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. They're actually a couple of my favorite Call of Duty games of all time. And these clips are giving me Black Ops 3 with a little bit of Black Ops 2 vibes mixed in there. So I actually like the aesthetics and the vibes that we're seeing so far. But also, as I stated, it's unfortunate that those vibes are going to be essentially gone when Season 1 drops because of carry forward, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Some other things that I was really liking the sounds of is they are finally getting rid of tac sprint. This is something I've been pushing for years now, and they're finally taking the leap and getting rid of tac sprint as the default movement. And so I'm obviously happy to hear that. Specialist is returning as well. That's something that I always like in any Call of Duty game that has featured Specialist. It's always a big selling point for me. I absolutely love earning my perks instead of score streak or kill streak rewards. They also mentioned they're toning down Omni movement a little bit from Black Ops 6. That's exactly what I wanted to see. I like Omni movement, but I do think they took things quite a bit overboard in Black Ops 6. And I've been very clear about that opinion for quite some time now. There's also no doors, or no manual doors at least. There are automatic doors that open, just like traditional Call of Duty, like old school Call of Duty before Modern Warfare 2019. Another thing I'm happy to see. Traditional prestige is returning as well. We've got the return of weapon prestige, which is something I was hoping for last year, but we didn't get, but now we're getting it this year. And then when it comes to maps, we're getting 16 6v6 maps at launch, so the quantity is great. The general vibes I've been seeing are solid as well. Again, I like this aesthetic. It is very subjective. It's fine if you don't like it, but I like the aesthetic. And I mainly like the variety that we're seeing visually between these maps. That was another big issue I had with Black Ops 6 is so many of the maps are just set in Avalon, and therefore you've got that same old Avalon color palette and Avalon lighting. And I found that to get very boring, whereas I don't think we're going to be experiencing that with this. And then on top of that, when it comes to maps, in their blog post, they had a whole section talking about their map design philosophy, and essentially with that, it was clear that they were pointing out all of the mistakes they made with the map design in Black Ops 6, and how they're effectively going to be avoiding that. Obviously, that's just on paper. We need to get our hands on it to see how things play. But that's just a quick overview of a solid list of improvements that, at least for me, are sounding really good. And I got some backlash for saying that I like these things, but it's literally a list of feedback that I've been providing for years now in many of these cases, specifically asking for these particular changes. And so, of course, when they announce they're making these changes that I've wanted to see, I'm going to be viewing those individual changes positively, and yet I still saw quite a few personal attacks for mentioning that I like these individual elements that they're making adjustments to and that I've been asking for years. But that's the positive stuff, and I was judging it as it's coming in. I was focusing on each of those points individually, while also being very clear about the one really big thing that I didn't like and the big mistake I think they made with the reveal, which is the announcement of carry forward. And of course, my opinions on everything will be evolving over time as more information comes out. I will judge the information as it comes. I will judge the gameplay once we actually get our hands on the gameplay. And as always, if I like something, I'm going to say I like it. If I dislike something, I will call that out. And I will provide the best constructive feedback I know how to provide when it comes to that. But so far, I have seen quite a few positives with this reveal when it comes to multiplayer. However, I think a lot of that stuff is just being overlooked and ignored because there are too many big picture issues with the franchise, at least in the eyes of the active community online, that completely overshadow any potential small picture gameplay improvements. So I think what we're seeing here was going to be the result regardless of what they showed us gameplay-wise for this game. And I really think the only way to turn community sentiment around here is if some of the bigger issues get addressed, which I'm not going to be holding my breath on, but let's talk about those and why I think we are seeing an Infinite Warfare situation happen again here. I think overall, much of the community is just getting burnt out on the current big picture formula of Call of Duty. Just like we saw with Infinite Warfare, where people were getting sick of jetpacks. They wanted to go back to boots on the ground. They wanted things to be more grounded coming off of Black Ops 3, but they ended up taking things even further into the future and they went crazier with it. But regardless of the setting of the game, it seems the community has just been getting burned year after year, with many of our main big picture complaints being largely ignored. And I'm going to sound like a broken record because I talk about this so much, and I have been for so many years, and that kind of highlights the point here, but things like their current matchmaking system, where it feels like it's just cranked up, it's overly reactive, and it leads to very exhausting gameplay with predictable trends throughout a gameplay session that feel very inorganic and manipulated. When you play well, you don't feel good about playing well because it was likely the matchmaking system was just feeling pity on you, and your next match is now likely to be significantly harder because of that recent performance. Or if you just play reasonably well on a consistent basis, you're just going to be playing an exhausting experience game after game after game. Additionally, we've had forced disbanding lobbies for so many years now, which destroyed any sense of an in-game community and, combined with the SBMM system, has created massive inconsistency from one game to the next, not only with the gameplay experience, but also things like your connection experience. There's also been an increase in the prevalence and degree of the crazy, wacky, out there skins that don't fit at all with the theme or tone or even the basic art style of the game, which for some isn't a big deal, but for others, it's a deal breaker. And I totally get it. I was always fairly forgiving with some of the wackiness that would enter Call of Duty back in the day, but it has jumped way past that line for me, especially with the addition of like Beavis and Butthead and American Dad skins, to the point where I've effectively stopped playing Black Ops 6 since the addition of those. I still haven't played a single game of Season 5, and I'm a Call of Duty YouTuber. And to top that off, as I mentioned, they've announced carry forward is happening, so all of those horrible, wacky, way out there, completely art style breaking skins are going to be added all at once the moment Season 1 drops with Black Ops 7. So that great looking vibe and art style that I'm liking in these trailers will likely only exist for about 2 or 3 weeks before Season 1 drops. So as I said, I think this is the biggest mistake they've made so far with this reveal, was announcing that carry forward is happening. I think one way they could potentially recover from this is bare minimum provide a toggle so you can toggle off just Black Ops 6 skins, although I'd like a more immersion filter, so anything that goes outside of the general theme and world building of the game just gets included in those skins that you can toggle off if you opt into that. I know that seems unlikely, but the amount of comments I've been seeing from people where this was literally the moment all of their hype died for this game and they will no longer be buying it because of that reason alone, despite the fact that they were liking the rest of what they were seeing, I feel like that should justify the inclusion of, again, at least a Black Ops 6 skin filter. So you can just turn off the Black Ops 6 ones, and then even if they're adding wacky ones down the road to Black Ops 7, which I'm sure will happen, at least you only have to deal with a slow trickle over time instead of a massive wave of those the moment Season 1 drops. And then to top all of that off, for some bigger picture issues here, there's a wild inconsistency when it comes to post-launch support on a game-to-game basis. We never really know if the game we're about to get is going to provide us with consistent fixes, constant gameplay improvements and pushing things forward, an abundance of content to keep us engaged throughout the year, or if they're basically just going to abandon us and give us the absolute bare minimum to get by, and it's going to leave us bored and burnt out with the game, like many of us are with Black Ops 6. So despite the fact that I'm seeing a lot of individual elements that are very positive going into Black Ops 7, I totally get a lot of the sentiment we're seeing right now in the community. And like Infinite Warfare, I think we may be coming to an end of this current cycle of Call of Duty, and some big changes are going to have to be made in order to recover from that. And unfortunately, I think that's going to mean that even if Black Ops 7's gameplay is actually quite good and solid, I don't think it's going to have much popularity. In fact, I think it'll be quite the opposite within the community. It's going to be a very unpopular game within the vocal community. And maybe that's what Call of Duty needs. Now, at the end of the day, this is just the vocal community, and they are such a small subset of the millions and millions of players that buy and play Call of Duty every single year, no matter what. So that does need to be taken into account here. I'm sure the game is still going to sell insanely well. It's probably even going to outsell Battlefield 6, despite the fact that Battlefield 6 has a very positive reception overall. And I love Battlefield 6, by the way. I'm really excited for that game. So I'm not trying to turn this into a COD versus Battlefield thing, but I'm just trying to point out, I think this game is probably going to do fine and will be a commercial success, but I don't know if it'll be a flop relative to what's expected out of a Call of Duty game. Obviously, time will tell on that. I will be keeping up with Black Ops 7, and as I said, I will be adjusting my opinions over time, whether that's positive or negative, as new information comes out. And you will still be seeing Black Ops 7 content on the channel, so just fair warning for you, there will be Call of Duty content here. But for those of you guys that have subscribed recently for Battlefield 6, as I said, I'm really excited for that game as well. I will be making content, and I would even go so far as to say currently I am more excited for Battlefield 6. Not sure if that's really a fair comparison, since I haven't got my hands on Black Ops 7 yet to try it out, whereas I played through the beta of Battlefield 6. But I'm definitely excited to be making content for both of them, and curious to see how all of this ends up playing out overall. And with that, this is where I'm really curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Instead of just the mindless Battlefield better comments, I'd like to hear some of your actual thoughts on what we've been seeing so far with Black Ops 7. Are there any elements that you like that you've seen here? And will those elements be enough for you or not? Have you maybe finally reached your burnout point with the Call of Duty franchise with this, where no amount of gameplay improvements are going to make up for the bigger picture issues? Or maybe are you just more excited for Battlefield 6 and you're planning on spending your time there? If so, I'll see you guys on the battlefield for sure. And if you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.